Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Adams Rite MS1861-01. This is a bottom rail deadbolt. That's what it looks like when the bolt is thrown. Pretty common deadbolt in the sense that we bump into people, our clients, who purchase these because they're generally custom fabricating doors. They're building gates. They're building some sort of this client, is actually building, in Italy, is building 6 pair of doors that are going to have bottom rail deadbolts. They are a wrought iron sort of construction. They are going to separate an area within a home to a wine storage location. So the bottom line is they have these bottom rail deadbolts. They're double cylinder. They don't want someone to reach in and open up that thumb turn and allow someone access. And what's nice about a bottom rail deadbolt in that sort of application, and actually the client before this, well, the notable one, they were doing custom gates again. This was on actually the reclaimed urban space in Manhattan called the High Line. They were building similar gates just for traffic control, closing off an area after hours, that sort of stuff. Bottom rail deadbolts. What's nice about these is they're, in both instances, is that they prove to be quite highly desirable because they're concealed. You don't see any of this. Okay, you'd have to be laying on the ground to be able to see that bolt. So all of this is prepped up into the lower rail, or the bottom rail of the door, the gate, whatever it might be. It's mortised, it's welded, tapped, reinforced, things of that nature. And what's another thing that's nice about it is this lock doesn't really care how thick your door is at all, provided it's at least, say, 1 3/8 thick or so, maybe a little thinner. But this project, the doors are 2.5 inch thick. The Highline project, those doors were 3.5 or 4 inch thick, something incredibly thick, made out of aluminum, in fact, on that one. And the reason it works well is because all we do is go with long cylinders on both sides. Doesn't really matter. These cylinders are going to be 1.5 inches. I think the door thickness on this is 2.5 because we've got 1.5 inch cylinders, but they wanted a particular, or maybe it was 2 3/4. I forget. I have to look. But they wanted cylinder collars, tapered cylinder collars underneath the head of the cylinders to prevent someone from tampering with them as well. So those will consume some usable space of the cylinder itself. So if 2 3/4 is 1 3/8 divided by 2, let's take like a 1/16 off of the length of each cylinder, maybe 1/8, and then another 3/16 or so for the cylinder collar. That's what gets us to the 1.5 inch cylinder length from the underside of the head to the back of the cam. What else is on this order for this client? Small format combinated cores that we are providing, which will prove to be temporary cores. I don't know what the client will put in for a permanent core, but it can be anything, provided it's small format compatible, meaning it can be just garden variety, standard best Falcon Arrow keyways, the lettered keyways. They can do, restricted material for a small format. Medico certainly comes to mind with their key mark, and other manufacturer. Peaks, of course, comes to mind. You'd be able to do that in these cylinders as well. So we're providing cylinders combinated, but only for temporary use. They also happen to have, and the reason I mention this is because it goes with this, dust-proof strikes. There's that box right at the tip of my finger. It's full of dust-proof strikes because they want to be able to make a clean installation. This bolt will easily fit into a dust-proof strike, and when the gate is open, there's just the surface of a dust-proof strike there, so a clean installation. So let's take a little closer visual review on this sucker. It's handy to hold it this way, but it would be, of course, installed this way. I hold it this way because your cylinder is going to go in here, and your cam is going to hit that black roller that's at the tip of my finger, and if you were to depress that, which you can't see it because it's really too dark, but I'm depressing it on my side, and right here, you can see how I get that push down, and if my finger was a little longer or smaller, it would certainly go right in. We'll use a tension rod from a spring hinge just to activate that. This is going to require a cylinder with an Adams Rite or an MS style cam. There is more than one cam for Adams Rite. This just takes the common MS style, the very small, petite, what we would call an Adams Rite cam, even though they have more than one. They have one that's basically a standard cam, just a little bit shorter. So that's how that gets thrown. Okay, very simple, very straightforward. The mechanism works very solidly, locks in place in both the locked and unlocked position naturally. Okay. Now, let's take a little bit of dimensional properties on that bolt. This won't include a strike. This won't include anything of that nature. So you do need to think about what you'll put down at the floor. Diameter of the bolt, 0.375, so 3/8 diameter. Overall projection, 0.819. 0.819, so basically 13/16. Some other basic dimensional properties. This faceplate and there, well, the body faceplate, the body width is 1 inch. I'm not going to call it a faceplate. The overall height of that is about 7 7/8. This is completely concealed, so there is no finished plate here. Your 2 screws for holding on your cylinders are here. You're going to get a couple of bolts, machine screws, for holding the body down into whatever you're installing it into. Obviously completely non-handed, doesn't matter. This can also be converted into the -02, which would convert this to a 2-point lock. And the dimension that I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's actually stamped on here, 1 1/8", is the back set. Very important to know. The edge, or the bottom of the door, to the center of the hole, yeah, 1 1/8" is what this is called. So the bottom of the door to the center of the hole is 1 1/8", and that's where you locate to drill your hole, 1 1/4" diameter hole for your mortise cylinder thread in. Let's switch to the screen view where we can take a look at some supporting documentation. Now let's take a look at the item here in the site. One thing that's nice about Adams Rite is they put their part numbers together in such a way that you can easily follow along with suffixes here. We're going to touch on that in a moment. Bottom rail bolt, using the same over-center pivot locking mechanism as the basic MS deadbolt, like an MS1850. The MS1861 lies horizontally in the bottom rail of ultra-narrow style doors, which have insufficient vertical space for a lock. Tempered glass doors, which of course have no style at all, but they would have a bottom rail. They're referring to, well, we'll get to it when we get to the technical drawing, the overall depth of the body. The hardened steel cylindrical bolt will allow simple receipt of that bolt into a typical hole that you'll drill, maybe 1/2 inch or a dustproof strike. Minimize the nuisance and danger presented by someone by some threshold strikes in collecting debris and catching women's heels doors. A little bit of a typo there that we now have corrected. Okay, now there are 3 documents linked to down below. Let's take a look at all of them. First up is a technical drawing, just going to give you dimensional properties in terms of where everything needs to be laid out. Looking for... So be mindful that this is actually showing the -02 if you're doing a 2-point lock model, which we are, of course, not doing. So interesting, they are showing us 1 7/8 from the bottom of the door to the center. So we've got 3/4 inch worth of this contraption. The bolt guide really is what it is. Okay, 1 inch from the bottom of the door to this web, that's here they call it, that your lock body will attach to. A dimension from the edge of the door, you know, they're giving you a reference of 5 3/4 back set. Sure, that's going to be the recommended location. I wouldn't deviate from that at all. I wouldn't deviate from that at all in case your client wanted you to convert to a 2-point lock. You'll be in the proper position for it. Plus, that orientation puts your cylinder closer to the edge. You know, you can install it backwards if you want, but you'll never have the ability to run a bolt out the edge of the door in that direction. So again, this is showing you the dash 02, where it will have the added 2-point lock option. So we're going to ignore that naturally. 1 inch and then 6 1/8 basically to receive the body, locating the holes that you'll drill, the 7 1/4 where you'll drill and tap the holes to receive the body. So, you know, it's a pretty easy installation. These other holes here are for the guide of the 2-point lock should you need that. So, you know, you're going to need 1 7/8. You're going to need 1 inch. You're going to need 6 1/8. You're going to need 7 1/4 on those center lines. You're going to need the 5/8 here. They don't tell you the. They do 1 1/4 diameter right there. 5 3/4 back set. So that's everything that you're going to need on that. Scrolling down, just more of the same. Shows it basically installed. Trim ring thickness, TR, will vary with specific cylinder make, number of pins, and bottom rail thickness. To determine trim ring thickness, use the following formula. TR equals A plus 1/8 minus B. And that's kind of where I come to on that as well. So, you know, what they're really telling you is what is your trim ring thickness. So trim ring thickness equals A, which is the length of your cylinder, plus 1/8 of an inch, minus half of the door thickness. Okay? Or door thickness divided by 2, I guess. Well, actually, no, that's not accurate. You're going to want the B dimension because you could be installing this biased towards one side of the door or the other. Don't assume B is half of your door thickness because it may not be. In fact, there was a job that we did that had maybe 3 or 3.5 inch thick doors, but they were offset to one side. And why they were doing that was to position the bolt so as to hit the floor where they needed it to hit the floor. So we had very short cylinders on one side and obscenely long cylinders on the other side. So yeah, it's not correct. B is not, you know, door thickness divided by 2. It can be if you're centered in the door. This is the cam that you would use for this lock. That's called that MS cam. MS, by the way, stands for maximum security. That's a trademark name, or you know, whatever that. It's a trademark under Adams Rite. Now, the next of 3 documents is, of course, the cut sheet. Minimum back set is approximately 2 1/4, and that's going to be based on, I suppose, where you're measuring it from. They give us the back set on the technical drawing. You know, it's really inch and 7/8, and that's because you're adding that bracket down here, the guide. Okay, both have a cylinder center of 1 7/8, so minimum back set 2 1/4. So I think what they're talking about is how far you need to have it off the edge of the door for a back set, which would make sense. So I think what they're telling us, and I'm going to verify this right now. Yeah, certainly. The dimension from here to the center line, a minimum of 2 1/4 is required, or 5 3/4 if you're going to run that 2-point lock, which would be here to here. That'd be 5 3/4. Strong corrosion, steel resistant, you know, zinc plating. You can convert from a single point to a 2-point lock by using that 40-14 conversion. Using the same, anyway, the function we've just described when we looked at the extended description, the bolt diameter and the throw we've talked about. 7/16 holes drilled and thresholds are required for either single point or 2-point lock. 360-degree turn of key or thumb turn allows you to throw or retract the bolt. Locks in the locks in the bolted or retracted position, and takes any 1 in 5/32 diameter mortise cylinder, which is the common size. Don't get bogged down in 1 in 5/32. There are 4 mortise cylinder types. The other 3 you don't have to worry about because it's unlikely that you'll encounter them. But to go from smallest to largest, there's peanut, which is 3/4, standard, builder's size, 1 in 5/32. Then there's jumbo or master ring, that's 1.5 inches. And then there's mogul, that's 2-inch diameter. Those peanut, master ring, and mogul you encounter very infrequently. Maybe master ring, maybe peanut. Detention work takes mogul. More dimensional properties here if you are so inclined as to want to look at that again. Down here is where they give you how to build the part number. It's either a 01 or an 02. And the 2 is obviously the 2-point lock. Okay, we're doing an 01 here is what we're doing. The last link is to the installation instructions, which will be a regurgitation of what we've gone over. Prep that door as we had talked about earlier here. Drill and tap your holes for the bolts shown here and here. Install your cylinders and you're off to the races. Okay. Conversion to a 2-point lock. Trim ring formula here as we had talked about earlier. And obviously you might want to run it twice. You'll run it twice if you have a lock that's not centered in the door. Now finally, there's a link below this video here to the manufacturer's page, and that's going to allow you to review not only all of the Adams Rite products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation here, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. If you are a locksmith, you are certainly very familiar with Adams Rite. If you're a handyman, you probably are as well. If you deal with aluminum storefront hardware, Adams Rite is probably, again, familiar to you, but it's a lot more than aluminum storefront hardware. They have a comprehensive offering of unusual products that you may use on aluminum storefront. And like this job and the other 1 or 2 I've referred to, there was aluminum storefront hardware installed on material that was not aluminum storefront. I find the link to the catalog very helpful when it comes to the designing and problem-solving step of sorting out hardware to accomplish a client's operational narrative. So a great resource to, if not to familiarize yourself with it, at least know where to get to it. Electric strikes, exit device, sliding door locks that you'll see on residential applications, condo buildings, things of that nature. Of course, aluminum storefront hardware. Cylinder-operated flush bolts. I can't think of anyone else that you can get those from. You'll get those from Adams Rite as well. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Now, in conclusion, a very typical type of lock that you're going to see from Adams Rite, although you don't sell them often, but you will sell them when someone's doing a custom project. I am partial to Adams Rite from the perspective that they have you have to be partial to them when they're the only people that kind of make certain things, but objectively, we don't go to them only because they're the only people that you'll get this from. Their technical support is always responsive. Every time over the years and years, decades in fact, that I've asked questions of tech support, they've responded 100% of the time, and it is very much appreciated. Not everything from Adams Rite is published. On that link to the manufacturer's page, there is the parts drawing, but that's only parts drawings on those documents that are published. If for any product line there was to be a comprehensive publishing of all documentation, I would want it to be Adams Rite, because people do use their parts to solve problems, and being able to see parts drawings are very helpful. Even if the material's not saleable or sellable, however that would be pronounced, you probably can't buy constituent components inside of here. It would be nice to see exploded parts drawings just to see the parts that go into it, because many of our clients are absolutely hijacking and perverting and cannibalizing and customizing and remanufacturing material from Adams Rite to make it work in something else. Of course, Adams Rite wouldn't tell you to do that, but they must be aware of it. And that's really a testament to how unique the product line is, that you can take it and solve solutions that the factory isn't providing solutions for. So publish those documents early and often. Any questions on the Adams Rite MS1861-01? The 603, by the way, just means zinc. IB means it's individually boxed. That IB might tell the people who are picking and packing orders what they want them. You want to put 12 of them into a bag? Do you want them in a crate? Do you want them in individually boxed? There you go, individually boxed. Any questions on this or any other Adams Rite product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. If you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please click subscribe as well, and even share the video with someone that you know. And if you have any questions for a future video, please send them our way and we will make every attempt to oblige. And thank you very much.